You absolutely loved my one simple system for organising beads that saves me so much time and money, but you wanted to know more. The real game changer for your bead organisation isn't another physical shelf or drawer. The ultimate secret is the very thing you asked for. It's mastering your digital data in Airtable. Imagine finding any bead visually in seconds, knowing its cost and tracking every single one, just like you saw how the physical system works. Hello, welcome to The Stylish Maker. My name's Carol. Last week I shared my bead storage system and so many people asked me for more detailed information about how I use Airtable to keep track of all my beads. In today's episode, I'm going to walk you step by step through how I do exactly that. Remember, you can access the template for the Airtable that I use to keep track of over 3,500 beads from the Style Makers Network. You do need to join to get access, but it costs less than a cup of coffee per month. There's lots of other benefits to joining the network as well. I'll leave you a link below. Jump in and try it. You will still have access to the template even if you decide the membership is not for you. So let's jump into Airtable and I'll show you what's what. When you first open the base, you'll see tabs along the top. Each one of these tabs is a table of information about your product. What we're going to do is start at the Products tab and then we'll work our way through each of the tables. The product we're going to add is some 6mm hematite bicone beads. This bead has different colours, so we'll add each one of these colours as a different variant. Here's something important to remember. Each product must have at least one variant. Okay, let's add our first product. Click the plus at the bottom of the table to add a row. The first thing that we need to do is add a product SKU. Now, if you remember from my previous video, what I like to do is take the first letter of each word in the product name and use that as the SKU. If the product has a size, I also add that number. Each product SKU needs to be unique. If an SKU already exists, I sometimes expand or contract the name. For example, if HBB6 was used, I would actually change it to HB6. In the following field, we'll add the product name. Next, we'll add a product image. There are two ways you can do this. You can either click in the attachment icon within the field and browse for the file you want to upload, or drag and drop an image directly into the field. Now, you want to keep your files quite small. On the free version of Airtable, you have 1 GB of storage space for your attachments. I use an application called Photo Room to clear cut my images and get them to the correct size. If you'd like to see a tutorial on how I use that application, let me know in the comments. We don't need to add anything to the variant images that will populate as we add variants in the following table. You can now enter a product description, which is also really helpful for searching. Next, we add a category and a subcategory for your product. I'll show you how to update this list with your own categories and subcategories a little later. Now add the size of your product, for example 6mm. Now onto the variants field. The variant will populate as we start adding variants for this product. So let's go to the variants table, which is where you will spend most of your time. Let's add a variant to this table. Like before, click the plus at the bottom of the table. We don't need to add a variant SKU. That will be created as we add more information about our variant. In the product SKU field, we'll select the product to which we want to add the variant. When we do this, you'll see that the variant SKU starts to update. Next, we'll add a code for the color. The color of this variant is electroplated blue, but we'll refer to it as B for blue. Now we need to enter a unique number for each of the variants. I started my numbering at 1001. The reason I put the 1 in front of the zeros for my 4-digit number is that Airtable doesn't recognize numbers with leading zeros. So if you enter just 0001, it will display as 1. So I put the 1 at the beginning and started adding my variants, increasing the number each time. I used 4 digits because it would take a really long time to reach 9,999 variants. The product name field already contains the name of the product to which this variant belongs. In the following field, you can upload an image of the variant. There are 2 fields for color. The first one is a text field where you can enter the official name of the color, and the second is a color tag that you can add to make it easier to search for the specific colors you want. Sometimes the original names are not the best. For example, if you're searching for a blue bead, Sky Zenith or Deep Sea is not the best when all you really need to know is that it's blue. It's still good to record the original name, so that's why we've got 2 options. Now, if you double click at the very top of that column, you can customize any of the tags that I've already put there. This variant is called electroplated blue, so I'll select the blue tag. The picking location is where you are storing the bead. In my studio, I store this bead on shelf G6. Here's a tip. When I store any of my supplies in a drawer or on a shelf, I organize them in numeric order using the variant number. That way I can quickly locate the bead on the shelf or in the drawer. The following 3 fields are pretty simple: price per unit, inventory, and total value. It's good to know the cost of each of your beads, how many beads you have on hand, and the total cost of all the product. You only need to enter the cost per unit and the number of units you have. The total will be calculated for you. The last 2 fields in this table are the supplier and supplier reference URL. We store all the information like contact, website, and phone numbers for a supplier in another table, and then we can associate that supplier with one or more of our products. I've also found it really useful to record the product URL of that variant so I can locate it on the supplier's website. The following table is the categories table. I've kept this really simple with just beads, findings and components, pendants and charms, stringing materials, tools and supplies. You can add or remove or change anything you want in this table. You can even add a description for each of your categories. Now this is a link table, so any product that you associate with one of these categories will appear in the products column. Our next table is the subcategories table, and just like the categories table, you can modify any of the items in this list. Any variants that are associated with a subcategory will appear in the variants column. The final table is our supplier table, where we record all the information about our suppliers. This table also lists all the variants associated with that supplier. One of the things I really like about Airtable is that sometimes it's difficult to see all the information about a record in a table format. If you click on any record in the top left corner of the row, it will expand to display a larger window. This gives you more room to enter information and also makes things easier to see. Now that you've set up your Airtable, I want to show you how I use it. So let's take a look. So you can see here we have our blue hematite beads, and I can also add a variant from this products table. So all I need to do to add a variant is come across to the variants column on the right hand side, and I just click the plus. I click in there first and the plus appears, and then I just click the plus. Now I don't already have this variant set up. If I did, I could search for it, so I could type in 5467 and it would show, but I don't want to add that variant to this product. So what I'm going to do is add a new one. So I click the plus here, and then I want to add the code. So this is the unnamed record, so it's the beginning of adding a new variant. So the code for my purple one is going to be P, and the number is 8126. So that's a good start. Now I can go and grab my image, and all I need to do is drag it into this box here. Or I could click browse and go and find the image. Once it loads, there we go. And I want to call it electroplated purple, because that is what the color is called. And then I want to give it a color tab of purple. And of course my picking location, so I can always find it. The price per unit or pack. And I have 50 of these in stock. And of course I can add my supplier reference there as well. So now how do I actually find things? Now the best feature of Airtable is actually the filter. If I come in here and I click add condition, and I start typing sub, and then subcategory comes up, and then I can choose my category. So if I type glass, and there we go, that shows me the glass beads that I have on hand. Now obviously I'll be adding to this. This is just a template. If I wanted to, I could also search on size. So maybe I want to go and find a 4mm bead. There we go. And if I want to remove the filter, I just hit the little trash can there. Now I might want to actually look for a glass bead. So find my subcategory again, and it is glass. So there we go. And the size is 4mm. Now obviously it's showing me the only bead that's there, but you can also filter on more than one criteria. And you can also do an or instead of an and. So there's that option as well. Now one of the things I use often when I'm designing a piece is the color tag. For example, I can filter on color tag has any of, and let's turn on blues. So now you can see that I have 2 blue beads in my stash. So I can then go and look at the picking location. So if I wanted to use this acrylic butterfly, I know that it's in M5. If I wanted to use my electroplated hematite bicone beads, I know that that's in M6. And that is absolutely amazing for finding your beads and being able to design. So if I'm wanting to make a blue necklace, I just sort on blue and then I can go and grab all of my blue beads, or all of the ones that are appropriate. The other one that I use is inventory, because sometimes I want to know if I've got maybe 10 beads. So what I can do here is choose greater than 10. So now I can see that I have more than 10 of each of these beads in stock, and that's quite useful because there's nothing worse than finding a bead and you go and get it out and you've only got 1 left and you need 5. So it's a really good plan to check the quantity you have on hand before you go and design. Just saves you a lot of time. So there's quite a lot of power behind that filter in Airtable. It is really what makes this tick. So if you're going to use it well. So you can see how easy it is to keep track of all of your beads or craft supplies using the system. Of course, the thing with any system is that you need to maintain it. So you do need to be diligent about taking photos, entering them into your database, and putting everything back in the right place. It's actually really easy once you get going. I really hope that you found this useful. Remember that the link to the StyleMakers Network is below so you can get the template. Thank you so much for joining me today. Have a wonderful day, and I'll see you again soon.